Imagine a president wielding military might to quell protests in a U.S. city. Sounds like a plot from a tense thriller, right? But this isn't fiction. It's the real-life drama unfolding in Portland, Oregon, where a federal judge has just pulled the plug on Donald Trump's plans to send in the National Guard. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just about riots or immigration policies. It's a showdown over who controls the military in times of domestic unrest. Stick with me as we unpack this story, and you'll see why it's sparking heated debates about presidential power, civil liberties, and the balance of government branches. On a crisp Friday, U.S. District Judge Karen J. Immergut, who was handpicked by President Trump himself during his first term, dropped a bombshell ruling. She issued a permanent injunction that flat-out forbids the Trump administration from rolling out National Guard troops onto the streets of Portland to handle protests tied to the president's immigration stance. For those new to legal jargon, a permanent injunction is a court's final say-so that blocks an action indefinitely, unlike a temporary one that might just pause it until more hearings. This decision stems from a lengthy legal tug-of-war that started back in late September, when Trump directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to dispatch about 200 troops to the city amid demonstrations outside an immigration processing center. But here's where it gets controversial. Judge Immergut didn't mince words in her opinion. She declared that the situation in Portland simply didn't meet the high bar for federalizing the National Guard. Under the Insurrection Act, the law that governs when the president can call in troops domestically, she found no evidence of a rebellion or danger of a rebellion, nor any proof that the president couldn't manage with regular forces like local police or federal agents. In other words, Immergut argued Trump's move was based on exaggerated claims, like describing the city as war-ravaged, with ICE facilities under siege by Antifa and crazy people, attempting nightly arson on federal buildings. The president's determination was simply untethered to the facts, she wrote, painting a picture of a commander-in-chief acting in bad faith. The Trump team, of course, isn't taking this lying down. The Justice Department fired back immediately, appealing the ruling and claiming it oversteps judicial bounds by interfering with the commander-in-chief's authority over military ops. Their lawyers insisted that the deployment was justified by real threats, agitators attacking federal officers, vandalizing property with spray paint, blockading entrances, trapping agents in cars, stalking them home, doxing them online, and even issuing death threats on social media. They argued the National Guard was essential because regular law enforcement was overwhelmed, invoking the same Insurrection Act to back their case. On the flip side, Oregon officials, including the city and state, countered that yes, there have been scuffles at the facility, but they're manageable with existing local and federal resources. No need for a military show of force, they said, which could escalate tensions unnecessarily. This isn't the first rodeo for these legal battles. Judge Immergut had already slapped on a temporary restraining order in early October, blocking the deployment initially, and the administration was appealing that too. Now, with the permanent ban in place, the DOJ has taken it to the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, where the case hangs in the balance. For context, the National Guard is typically a state's reserve force, but the president can federalize it for nationwide duties under specific conditions. Think natural disasters or, in theory, severe domestic threats. Critics on one side might see this as a necessary tool for a president to protect federal interests, while others worry it sets a dangerous precedent for overreach, potentially turning American streets into militarized zones. And just to show it's not isolated, the administration is facing similar pushback in Chicago. There, a judge issued a temporary restraining order last month against deploying Guard troops, and the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals let it stand temporarily while appeals play out. The White House even escalated to the Supreme Court last month. This pattern raises eyebrows. Is this a targeted strategy by Trump to assert control in Democrat-led cities, or a legitimate response to unrest? Proponents might say it's about safeguarding federal property and officers, but detractors could argue it's an abuse of power, reminiscent of historical controversies like the use of troops in civil rights-era clashes. What do you think? Does the president have too much leeway with military deployments, or is the judiciary overstepping? Is this ruling a victory for civil liberties, or does it leave federal workers vulnerable? Share your take in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you agree with the judge's call or see a counterpoint we haven't covered. After all, in a democracy, these debates are what keep us all engaged and informed.